Ladies and gentlemen, here we've got somebody. If you're a Bama fan, like everybody but me.
Yeah, everybody but you.
We have Clint Lamb. Clint, welcome to the show. Now, I tried to call it out a little bit. Zach, explain what you do. Maybe you explain better. But you're with Bama Beat, Roll Tide Wire. Give us a rundown of what you do and what you're doing now with Cecil Hurt and people like that, big names that's in the business.
Well, as far as the writing stuff goes, there's a brand new website through USA Today. They kind of kicked it off probably, I guess, about a month ago. And they kind of there had already been probably 4 or 5 college teams that were being covered. Michigan State, Michigan, Georgia, Tennessee already had websites, and they started kind of rolling out the next phase, which included Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas, and Oklahoma. So I was named the managing editor of that.
All right.
That's been a really big opportunity for me. I've been excited about it, kind of get to run the show for the first time in my career. So definitely am appreciative of the opportunity to be able to do that. But then as far as the stuff with Cecil Hurt, I actually now work for the Tuscaloosa News, Tidesports.com, with him doing the Bama Beat podcast. And we get to just, what I get to do is, once or twice a week during the off season, I guess we'll crank it up a little bit once football actually kicks off. But I get to drive to Tuscaloosa and talk football with Cecil Hurt. So, I mean, you can't really beat that. So
not bad at all.
The legend. I mean, anybody knows Alabama football.
He's the Philip Marshall of Alabama football.
And like I said, a lot of people don't know this, but Cecil is a North Alabama guy. He's from Huntsville, Alabama.
Him and Philip Marshall both are from Huntsville, Alabama.
Philip from Huntsville. One night we have a Greenbrier meeting once a month. Our normal Alabama meeting at Greenbrier, and one night we're having it at Greenbrier, and I walked out there to pay my bill. Cecil's just sitting out there normally eating. Says, Cecil, what are you doing? I'm just sitting there eating. I come see my dad. I'm like, you need to be in here with us. Don't tell nobody. I'm just eating. I'm just going to leave. So he didn't want nobody to know he was there. So, but that's the kind of guy Cecil is.
Very low-key guy.
Very low-key guy. So, but not bad for a guy played for Coach Ezel, Athens High School, to doing what you do. So yeah, you can tell us a little bit about your background. You're an Athens High School guy. So
I am.
Played for Coach Ezel. Played a little football too, didn't you?
I did.
In college?
I did. I actually, of course, I played, 2005, 2009 at Athens High School. Played for Coach Creasy.
Coach Creasy. I said Coach Ezel.
That's all right. I get that a lot, actually. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
But,
Coach Creasy. Yeah.
But we were able to win the state championship in 2006. That was a heck of an experience. And then, of course, I went and played for a couple years at Birmingham Southern. And the original plan there was to transfer to Alabama. I got accepted to walk on. William Ming had helped get my film to the coaches.
There you go.
And between injuries and trying to battle back from those, I had a rotator cuff problem and an Achilles problem. And, man, I just decided after the grind of everything, trying to go make it in Tuscaloosa, trying to recover from all those injuries, I wasn't sure that I'd be able to. So I just decided to hang up the pads and focus on academics. And, it's kind of just – it's been a whirlwind ever since.
Hey, and it's paying off too, Clint, because you still covering Alabama football.
It's crazy how it happened. Just with the way that social media and stuff works, anybody that really has a passion for it is willing to try to get better. You have the opportunity to try to make it. So I just started a blog, and then from there it kind of just took off. I had somebody reach out to me that was looking for some free labor. With some written content, and then it just kind of spiraled. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So like I said, Roll Tide Wire, that's got started. So how long have you been doing that now?
I think as far as me being with the company, probably about 2 months, but we didn't actually officially launch the website until about a month ago, simply because we wanted to make sure we had plenty of content, and we're staying up with the news and stuff, but we didn't want it to not be filled out, I guess you'd say, with just a few articles. So it was kind of a process and very, kind of just it's my first experience helping to launch something like that. And while it's been extremely, it's come with its challenges, it's been very rewarding too, and very cool to watch it as it's grown.
Now, I'm sorry, Brad.
No, you go ahead.
So, like with Rodney on Tighter and stuff, you get like media time at practice like that? And
I do. I just got back from SEC Media Days. That was a very long week. That was one of those, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. kind of things, which is fine. I don't mind doing it. When you enjoy what you do, it doesn't really feel much like work. But I go to the games and practices and this season will probably be a lot more interesting as far as, once fall camp gets underway, you can really start to get an idea of, what's going on, whether it be position battles or kind of where things are trending as far as the program. So I'm excited for that to get underway here in a few weeks.
But so one of the big things come out, Clint, was and I think you might have seen it on the SEC network when Darian Oak, I believe, and Greg McElroy, they talked to Coach Saban, and one of the things come out was they asked Coach about distractions, and they talked about was it players or coaches, and and Coach Saban basically come out and said he thought a lot of distractions come out from the coaches,
right?
And then you see where Mike Loxley come out and mentioned.
Coach Lox didn't like that at all.
Well, they come out, and I don't think Coach Saban, you've been around it enough. Coach Saban's not going to call out a coach. Never has. Right. Never's going to call. And he never called out Coach Lox by name, but I think it kind of got to Coach Lox, and he called out. But there was some distractions.
Absolutely.
And I think when you're trying to move up the ladder, there is going to be distractions. And Coach Loxley, of course, he was setting offensive records with the team at Alabama, and he knew that Maryland job was coming open. And there were distractions on there, and like Tua said, we were used to always looking up at the clock, and we were ahead. And in that Clemson game, we didn't know what to do.
Well, I think that the biggest thing as far as what Tua was referring to is Alabama, and kind of how the program has been built is not to ever look at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
You're trying to win every individual play, regardless of whether you're up by 50, down by 50, it doesn't matter. It's winning that particular play, and I think that Alabama kind of got away from that last season. You saw that. That's what he was referring to when he said looking up at the scoreboard. They understood that they were, kind of imposing their will on defenses. But, and I know that Saban earlier in the offseason made a comment, and he didn't refer to him by name, but he was obviously, I think everybody knows he was talking about Ronnie Harrison as far as coming out early for the NFL draft. And, he said we had a guy that fell to the third round that could have been a first-round pick, and he was correct. But that, of course, rubbed Ronnie the wrong way, too. But at the same time, I think Cecil put it a fantastic way when he was on the Paul Feinbaum show. You're not going to get coach speak from Nick Saban. You're not going to get cliches. When he's asked a question, he's going to try to answer it as honestly and correctly as possible. Now, he's not going to try to call anybody out, but when he's specifically asked about distractions, he's not going to give you, well, we just need to get better, we need to move on.
He's going to act shooter.
Exactly. Yeah. And, that's what has helped make Saban as great as he is as far as being a football coach and a communicator. And I will say this about him. He's going to say what he's going to say because he's speaking honestly, and I don't think it gets to him when people don't agree with it or they don't like how he handled it, because he's not trying to offend anybody, but he's going to answer honestly.
Yeah, and another day he was talking to some guys and said that we're going to like in our hiring process, we're going to do it a little different because, people are using us like a stepping stone, a.k.a. Josh Gaddis.
Right.
So yeah. And besides, too, this early signing period, if you need a head coach quick, they got to get somebody in there where they can keep the recruits.
Well, just when you talk about the transfer portal and the new recruiting, you're talking about college football is changing big time. And I think that's one of the big issues is it's an adjustment period.
Yeah.
And when you look at the fact that Alabama's had to, it seems like every offseason they're having to replace not only key players, guys that were seniors, you have the guys that are leaving early for the NFL draft, and then now you've got coaches, and it's every year you're having the same kind of coaching turnover as you do with your players, and I don't think many programs have to deal with that. In fact, I don't know of any. Even your top programs like Clemson, they're hanging on to their guys.
Yeah.
And, you can kind of – I know that with Venables, a lot of people have questioned, what's been able to keep him around, and I think he's just waiting for the right opportunity.
Yeah.
Kirby stuck with Saban for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And he knew that he could because he was making good money. He enjoyed what he was doing. He knew he was learning from one of the best. And the right opportunity would present itself, and he took advantage.
Zach, comment to Clint about what was it John Goodman or whatever said about Trevor Lawrence.
No,
see what he thinks about his opinion on that.
I guess you've probably seen the Joe Goodman AL.com article, and he come up and said that, I don't know if, Tom, you saw it on AL.com, where he said Alabama said Alabama needed a cold hard slap in the face because the comments that was made at SEC Media Days. And, of course, you being down there, you heard the comments of Dylan Moses and all them. And Joe Goodman was on Paul Feinbaum the other day, and he made these comments, and he stood by and he just, he said that Trevor Lawrence was twice the quarterback of Tua, and I mean, this guy is basically and you know what I'm talking about, Clint. He's one of these columnists that wants to
Clicks.
Yeah, he wants the clicks.
Absolutely.
It clickbaits, and he's definitely getting them, and he got the rise out of the Paul Feinbaum callers yesterday. And I know you're a different kind of columnist. You're going to write, the articles just like Cecil Hurt, and you got these kind of guys like Joe Goodman, who was like Kevin Skarbinski, and some of the other ones who are going to get the rise out of Alabama and the Auburn folks that, they want to do it. And it's just, just gets people stirred up.
It does.
Clint.
Well, I'll say this. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that, Joe Goodman does really good work over there for AL.com. But that particular article, I don't mind saying that I disagreed with it, and I think that a lot of people did. And it's not just Alabama folks. I think that there were I think he brought up some legitimate points.
Yeah.
But, any time that you're sitting there, you make a comment about Dylan Moses not being very good. He's one of the top linebackers in the country.
Absolutely.
Right now, projected to be a top 10 pick. And does he have areas he needs to improve? Absolutely. But to say you're not very good, just to me, that's where you really, it's pretty obvious that you're trying to get a rise out of people. It's a different style. There you have, and a lot of this stuff, I'm going to refer back to Cecil because we have great conversations about a lot of this stuff, and it's one of the reasons I really enjoy working with him. But, with talking with him, there's just a major difference between your local and national media and what they're trying to achieve. Local media, they care about the position battles and a lot of those things. The national guys are more so looking for the major headlines, the sound bites, I guess you'd say. And that's kind of what they're, getting, even from an AL.com perspective. That's what he was, in my opinion, looking for. And he most certainly, mission accomplished. Really, there's no way to combat that or stop it unless you stop clicking on the articles and reading it.
Exactly.
So, and that's never going to happen because people are just way too curious. In anything in life, you think you'll have people. I guess it's the same way as when you purchase something online. If you have a good experience and you get your product on time, you don't leave a review. It's when something goes wrong, then you get real passionate about it. So, a lot of the people that read this stuff, when you'll get the reactions when they have a negative reaction to it. So,
well, we got to give Tom a break because we know you cover Alabama, but we know you know about Auburn, so we got to let Tom ask you some Auburn questions. You go right ahead, Tom. You ask him some Auburn.
No, what's really been on my mind this week has been Malik Willis getting to go to Liberty to play for Coach Hugh Freeze. And there was a chance before Kenny Dillingham was hired as OC that Hugh Freeze possibly could have been Auburn's offensive coordinator, right? Yes. But Gus decided to go in a different direction, probably with a little push from the higher ups up there with what happened with Coach Freeze at Ole Miss. But still,
well, I think that with that situation, I think what right now Gus is really looking for is, they obviously have two talented young quarterbacks in Joey Gatewood and Bo Nix, and I think that for the first time they don't want what you would call a stopgap player. And I'm not saying that Malik Willis would have necessarily been stopgap. He had been in the program. But, he had set for several years. With these guys, if you can find an established starter and go ahead and get him some experience, you're set up for the next 2 or 3, 4 years.
Gatewood and Nick separated themselves from the crowd just in spring practice. The spring game alone, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. And, I think that with Auburn, I'll be 100% honest. I think there's question marks. I think they can be really good. The experience that they have returning on the offensive line, now granted they've struggled the past 2 years, but you would expect positive growth. And so if they can get the offensive line taken care of and they can get adequate play from the quarterback, they're set up at all the other positions, at least pretty much.
Last year or so, it's been who's calling the plays. Well, after the offensive coordinator left,
Chip Lindsey.
Thank you very much. Coach Malzahn, it wasn't what I saw in the Purdue game in the Music City Bowl, it was not, and the weeks leading up to it, it was not the play calling. It was the efficiency of the practice. Practice does not make perfect. No. Perfect practice makes perfect. Yeah. And all of the players were saying Coach Malzahn was not letting them get away with anything. If they didn't do it correctly, they went back and run it again and again. And as soon as they come out there and run them first 3 or 4 plays, I'm like, that's what's been missing. It's not the play calling. Yeah. It's the execution in practice that Coach did not have his hands on, which he should have had his hands on. Yeah. I'm not giving him a pass on it. Yeah. He should have had his hands on it. But it was obvious when he got in there and got both hands in charge of that offense that everybody was doing their job correctly.
Well, I think that a really important aspect of it is how did Gus Malzahn get to where he's at? And that's through his play calling. Yeah. That's really been his bread and butter and what's helped establish him as a top-tier, coach in college football. And I think that he finally, in the Purdue game, we were able to see, when everything is clicking and he's on his game, how good things can be. Mm-hmm. I still, and I like Jarrett Stidham. I think he's going to do well with the Patriots, to be honest with you. But I will say that I think that when you're looking at Auburn's offense, a Gus Malzahn-led offense, you talk about Nick Marshall, you talk about Cam Newton, you want a guy who's able to make plays with his legs.
Right.
And that's where really, and Stidham was a mobile guy, but I wouldn't by any means call him a dual threater. He's not going to threaten defenses in the same way as those other 2 guys, but I do think that Nix and even more so Gatewood, if he ends up being the guy, both of those guys can run a lot more of what Gus Malzahn has preferred in the past. And I think that should allow them. It's a matter of scheduling right now.
Yeah. Is exact brutal. Whoever is making those schedules for the last 25. You talk to Coach Dye for the last 25 years. Who's been making Auburn's football schedule?
Maybe Stephen Leith. Maybe that's why he got.
Maybe that's why he got fired.
Yeah, they said he got paid off. Why did he get paid off? Nobody knows.
Probably paid him more. They paid him more to leave than it was paying him to stay there.
Well, you got Georgia and Alabama, who's got your 2 toughest.
Both of those are
opponents,
home,
right? And you do get them at home, but they're by far your 2 toughest opponents. Yeah. And then you got to go to Florida, to LSU, to A&M, and then you got Oregon in week 1. I mean,
exactly.
It's just brutal. And I'll be honest. I mean, I'm always going to be real about it. You compare that to Alabama's schedule, and it's
talk about the first 4 games Alabama plays.
I mean, it is, and I think that in the past it's actually worked against Alabama as far as teams that look like they were going to be really good and a strong point on your schedule, like Florida State a couple of years ago. Yeah, ends up barely making a bowl game, and people were actually criticizing Alabama for having them on the schedule.
You can't criticize that because Florida State is a program.
Absolutely.
We get to talk to Coach.
Max Howell.
Thank you very much, Coach Max Howell. A little bit later about that.
But it can work against you. It can work for you as well in the sense of if LSU ends up being as strong as people are predicting. You have A&M. I mean, it can end up looking a lot better at the end of the season for Alabama than it does currently. But currently, it is not it doesn't seem like an overly difficult schedule, which it can be kind of concerning as far as not being tested.
But I do give it up to Coach Saban. He has fought. The other teams in the SEC don't want to do it, but he has fought for a 9-team SEC schedule, and he said it at media days. He would be all for playing a Power 5 every game, Power 5 team.
I won't believe it when I see it.
But the other teams don't want to do it. But Coach Saban said he would be all for it. And but you don't want the other teams to do it because like I said, Clint, they want to be bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So to be bowl eligible, you can't play every team Power 5 because you'd have all these bowl games.
But I'd rather have that game as like Western Carolina or Mercer.
Absolutely.
From a fan's perspective, absolutely.
Look at the Georgia Southern game that day. We wouldn't. This Georgia Southern, and they like to beat us.
Yep.
And then Louisiana Monroe that year.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean that's really the thing is
nobody wants to play them.
The way Saban's put it is, as long as you leave this loophole open, I'm going to keep taking advantage of it. But I'd prefer you close the loophole, or change the rules to where we can actually end up. Because I don't think it's beneficial. He's always preferred, and he said this from the get-go. He likes playing a top-tier opponent in week 1 because of the way A, it's great for recruiting, and B, it keeps your team focused throughout the entire offseason. Yeah. Because you don't have a Western Carolina in week 1. You don't want to take away from those programs. I refer to them by name, but we all know that.
We know,
there's Alabama will be a 45, 47, 40, 50-point plus favorite, and there's a reason for that. But I'll be interested to see when you start getting into the thick of the schedule for Alabama towards the end of the season, how things are shaking out. Because I've told people, and people said with as easy as their schedule is, they think that if they drop a game, they won't be able to make it to the college football playoffs. Now, granted, I disagree. I think that they could drop a game, whether it's in the SEC championship or in the regular season. I think that if they lose a game in the regular season, you're still talking about an 11-1 Alabama, and you're still looking at a situation where, based off of past, I mean, they're going to probably be considered one of the top 4 teams in college football. And then if they lose a close one to Georgia in the SEC championship, or let's say that, they still won the West, they're in the SEC championship, and their one loss is to a really good Georgia team, I could also see them getting into that scenario too.
Yeah.
And the thing about the schedule for me is this year we got Arkansas after Tennessee in the bye week before LSU. Usually we play Arkansas real early in the season.
Where is Arkansas game?
It's at home.
It's at home, not in Fayetteville? Yeah. Okay.
And
they're tough to play at home.
We got 3 games.
One of
in a
the
row
teams
at
that
home.
very stark difference as far as playing them on the road versus playing them at home. And I think that you would hope that they start showing quite a bit of improvement. And it just the way that it's kind of worked out. You got a lot of those teams that are going through the transition, the coaching change, and now they're all heading into year 2. Last year we had a lot of coaching carousel going on. This year with media days, it was pretty much the same crew back. Wasn't any new coaches, and so I think with the continuity, hopefully you start seeing improvement from programs like Arkansas and Ole Miss and some of those teams to really try to help out the back half or the bottom tier of your schedule, I guess you could say.
Clint, we got to go, but tell everybody where they can follow you at through social media.
Yeah, on Twitter you can catch me at Clint R. Lamb. Also the Roll Tide Wire's Twitter account's just at Roll Tide Wire. And then if you need to reach me by email, I don't mind answering questions or anything like that. You can reach me at clam@usatoday.com.
And Roll Tide Wire on the USA Today, and go to tidesports.com and
the Bama Beat Podcast.
Bama Beat Podcast.
All right.
Good job.
Great job. Great interview. Good. Come back, man.
No problem. Thank y'all so much.
We'll be following you this season.
Thank y'all so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Applebee's Tailgate Talk on WKAC, the Big 1080.